Hi, I'm Dr. Andrea Labuti, and I am going to answer this question about autism. Why does my child always cover his ears in public? And I'm going to throw in the one thing you should always do in response to this. But before I get into the answer to that, I want to tell you a story that I read on a blog. It was written by a teenage girl with Asperger's, and it was her experience or witness to an interaction that happened for a nonverbal autistic boy that was in a public school. Now, this nonverbal autistic boy was sitting in a huge assembly, and he was in the corner, sitting down with his ears, rocking back and forth, covering his ears, and clearly uncomfortable at the overwhelm of the assembly, like in a big arena. And this boy was around 14 years old. So what happened next was his paraprofessionals, his one-to-one, and some of the teachers, were just sort of observing him, and they could tell that things were escalating. And they did escalate in terms of his discomfort because he got up and he bolted out of the room. And all of the paraprofessionals ran out into the hallway, and they grabbed this kid, kicking and screaming, so to speak, and dragged him back into the auditorium. Now, their intention wasn't to make him uncomfortable. Their intention was to include him. Like, this boy clearly needed to be with the rest of his classmates. He needed to be at this assembly. This is what his high school classmates were doing. And it was obvious that that was their intention because I guess the mantra of the school had been, inclusion at any cost or whatever. Because as the people brought him back into the room, the students in the assembly started cheering and clapping and yay, way to go, because they really believed that it was in this boy's best interest to be brought back into the auditorium. And so, yes, he was brought back into the auditorium, and he sat back down against the wall, and he covered his ears, and he rocked back and forth. Now, the teenage girl with Asperger's that wrote about this experience, about witnessing this experience, was literally heartbroken. She was heartbroken because she knew what it was like to be him and what it felt like to be outside of your comfort zone. And then not only are you outside of your comfort zone, you try to escape and you are brought back into it. So when you have a child that is exhibiting any behavior, covering their ears, jumping up and down, being really frustrated, you need to understand first and foremost that that is a form of communication, okay? This is body language 101. If a child is covering their ears, they're uncomfortable. They could be playing with sounds like my son does, but for the most part, if there's a loud noise, they cover their ears, it's too much. They have hypersensitive systems and it's just too much. So the number one thing that you should always do when a child covers their ears in public is respect their sensitivities, okay? Really important. Respect their sensitivities. Do not ask them to stop doing what they're doing. Perhaps you could take them into a more comfortable environment. But number one thing, always, 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 when you're interacting with a child that has extreme sensitivities, is to respect their communication, respect the fact that they are uncomfortable. So I hope that answers the question appropriately. I hope it makes sense to you. We're here to look at autism from a whole new different way. Jump over to my website, AndreaLabuti.com. Join in with a growing group of people that will make the world different for our autistic friends. Thank you and have a great day.